Today is December 12th, 2023. My name is Melissa Ackerman, and I will be interviewing Linda Elkin over at the Legacy Midtown Park. Hi, Linda. How are you today?
I'm great, Melissa. How are you?
Good. Can you tell me about your family, your parents, grandparents?
Sure. My father was born in Poland in 1914. He came to the United States in 1921. Spoke no English, got into fights with the Irish kids in the neighborhood, but was an excellent student, really focused on education, and wanted to go to college, but had to go to work instead. So he never did do that. Started his own business, kind of at a very exotic kind of company. He made precious metal solutions for plating jewelry and accessories. So he was in the gold business, but in a very strange kind of way. So he wound up doing a lot of chemistry, even though he didn't have the education. My mom was born in the United States. She was one of 7 children. She was born in 1917. Never went to college because she too had to go to work. But was a learner all her life, was a very creative person, good cook, knitted, sewed, was active in organizations. My grandparents were both immigrants, came from Russia, and married when they met in the United States and married, and they had 7 children. 6 survived. The oldest one passed away when she was 17. My grandfather was a tailor, worked for a very exclusive women's coat and suit company, and because he had 5 daughters, he was allowed to take the patterns home. So they had no money, but they were the best dressed kids on the block because he made all their clothing. And my grandmother sewed too, but she was a homemaker, and I spent a lot of time with her. My recollection is that the kitchen light never went out in that house. The woman worked from 24 hours, as far as I could tell. I don't think she ever slept. Did everything by hand, cooked, laundry.
Was this in New York?
Yes, yeah, it was. They both. My father lived in Manhattan for a while, Lower East Side, but they mostly lived in the Bronx, and that's where my parents met there.
Where and when were you born, if you want to say when you were born?
I was born in 1940. I was born in, I think the hospital was in Manhattan, but we were living in the Bronx at that point, and lived in the Bronx until I was 11, and then my parents were able to buy a house on Long Island. So we moved, and that was a major deal because we had 1 bedroom in our apartment and 2 children and 2 adults. So sleeping arrangements were a little bit sketchy at times, to say the least.
So you have siblings or had siblings?
I had a brother. My brother passed away when he was 51, unfortunately.
Okay.
So it was just the 2 of us. We were very good siblings, very close. And I lived on Long Island actually until I got married. I graduated from high school there. I went to Queens College in New York City, graduated from there. My brother, also educated on Long Island, he went to Lehigh University and then to medical school, and he was an orthopedic surgeon. He lived in Massachusetts eventually.
Okay, what did you study in college?
Started out as an education major, but knew early on that I really didn't want to teach. So I was history classes, and then because of the time that it was, I went to work for a publishing house after college, but the job that I was offered was as a secretary. And I worked in the most overeducated secretarial pool in the whole world. I mean, they worked Brandeis University, wherever. And we worked for editors, and we were the secretaries. And in fact, the gentleman I worked for couldn't write a sentence, couldn't write a letter, but it was interesting. I didn't work there all that long because I got married, then I was pregnant pretty quickly, so that was the end of my career until I came to Dallas.
Were you, was your family members of a synagogue when you were growing up?
Yeah, they were. It was rather conservative in the Bronx, and then Long Island was a more reformed congregation. But yeah, they were always members of a synagogue.
Did you celebrate holidays?
We did. My parents were in B'nai B'rith. My father was president of the temple for a while. So yeah, we celebrated holidays, and we lived in a community that was predominantly Jewish and Italian, pretty evenly split. So yeah, my social life, I guess, in high school was partly related to the temple youth group, and we weren't bat mitzvah in those days, but we were confirmed.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we did that.
Okay, so tell me how you met your husband.
I was in college. I was working part-time at Gimbel's, and he was the personnel manager of the store. And they needed extra help in the personnel office during Christmas. I was on the selling floor. He had two women who worked for him, Rose Ruderman and Molly Weiss, who were determined to hook him up with somebody, because by then he was 28 years old and he wasn't married. So they asked me to work in the personnel office, which I did over the holidays. Then they technically fired me, sent me back to the selling floor, and then eventually he called and asked me out, because he wouldn't date anybody that was working for him. So
Got
that's
it.
how we met.
Okay.
And Rose and Molly came to our wedding.
How long did you go out?
About a year. That was it.
And got married, got engaged?
Yeah,
Got married right away?
Yeah, right.
And then you said did you move after you got married? Moved to Dallas, or where did you go?
No, we lived in Queens, we lived in Kew Gardens, then we lived in New Jersey for a while. One son was born in the New York area, the younger one was born in New Jersey, and we didn't move to Dallas until 1974.
Okay, was he in personnel or in retail in some fashion the whole time?
Gimbel's, Macy's, Bamberger's, and then finally Neiman Marcus.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, were you working at the time? Did you continue to do some work outside of the home?
No, not while the kids were little. When we came to Dallas, I went to Richland College and took horticulture classes because I was very interested in that, and eventually went to work for Lambert's. And was there until Lambert's ceased to exist.
What did you do there?
First I worked in the plant maintenance area, because I had to have an internship from Richland College, so they sent me to help take care of plants at Lambert's, which was a lovely job. I really did enjoy it.
You enjoyed that? You enjoyed gardening and...
Oh, always.
Did you do design or...
While I was in school, yeah, we did landscape design, and I had a couple of kind of clients on the side. But once I went to work at Lambert's, I wound up in advertising and PR for them
Oh.
until there was no more Lambert's, which was very sad.
Did you have a garden at your house? Or?
Always, yeah, yeah. And I do gardening at the
You do? I was
Legacy.
going to ask if you participated in that
Yes.
here.
Yeah, right. We have that lovely chef's garden, and that's kind of early morning. You will find me there watering plants.
Oh, that's nice. Will you come to my house and take care of mine?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, how many children do you have?
We have two sons. One is in Dallas, and one lives in California.
Tell me about them.
Well, our oldest son went to Boston University for school, came back to Dallas, worked at a variety of jobs. He now works for Toyota in their IT department, and
Here in town?
in town, in Plano. And the other son went to Skidmore College, came back to Dallas for a short while, and then decided he didn't really want to live here, so he moved out to the West Coast. And he was a school teacher for 20 years and retired recently, and now works for an environmental company in Northern California and does their communications. He was an English major, so he's still writing in his own way.
And do they have any children?
Yes, our oldest son, Peter, has two children. I have a granddaughter that's going to be 26 this month, and a grandson who's 23. The other son has one son who is 26, and he lives in California.
So, do you get to see the ones that are around here very
Yeah,
often?
as much as possible. Yeah,
That's great.
yeah.
That's great. Let's see. What part of town did you live in before you moved here?
In Dallas? We lived in Prestonwood initially, and we were there for quite a long time. That was our first house. And then we decided needed to downsize, so we moved to Frisco, to a zero lot line house. And we were there for 16 years before we came to the Legacy. So those are our only two addresses in Dallas.
Mm-hmm. So how has Dallas changed over the years that you've been here?
When we first got here, my mother would come to visit and she would bring supplies because she thought we couldn't get anything in Dallas.
Was she coming down from New York?
From New York or from Florida eventually. She would bring special chocolate syrup, You Bet chocolate. If you're from New York, you know the You Bet chocolate sauce. And I forget what else. But yeah, and you know, it was moving. People said, how are you even thinking of doing this? But well, our kids were young enough, and it was an adventure. And we had a house with a pool, oh my God. And because we moved because of the job, I mean, Neiman Marcus at that point was a really small company. And people were very welcoming, so, and then the kids were little, so it was PTA and whatever else, Temple Shalom. So, but it felt like, you know, you needed to go to Fort Worth for cultural activities when we first came to Dallas. So we've watched the city grow. It's pretty phenomenal now.
Did you participate in any organizations when your kids were growing up in the earlier years?
PTA, and we were busy with Temple Shalom. We did a variety of things there. And I'm trying to think, no, Scouts, you know, Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, that kind of thing. Mostly what involved the kids early on. And then once we stopped working, then Larry did Habitat for Humanity. We worked at the Frisco Food Pantry. So we did a lot more volunteer stuff in our later years than we did.
You had more time.
Yeah, with the kids, right.
And when did you move in here at the Legacy?
Be 3 years in March.
And how's it been?
It's been the best thing we've ever done. I mean, it's just fabulous. And we moved in, there were 15 people living here, so we've grown with it. And we find it a great community. The fact that we have so little responsibility in terms of cooking and cleaning and house and all the things that we're getting to be a real burden. And we thankfully we're able to take advantage of what's offered here in terms of exercise and pool and classes and trips, and so it's been wonderful.
You made a lot of friends?
Yeah.
And have you kept up with your old friends from before?
Yeah, we do, and we certainly make dates. Some of our old friends have moved in here, so that helps. It's a lot more convenient.
The country club.
Yeah, but no, we do. We still have friends on the outside, and even friends from our old neighborhood, where literally we were the only Jewish people on the street when we lived in Frisco. So, yeah, it's a great place.
How do you think the Jewish community has changed over the years that you've been here?
The fact that there are so many people from so many other places moving in to Dallas makes it more interesting. Certainly more diversity in terms of places to go worship. There are a lot more of them. And I guess, you know, because we've met so many people here who are true Dallasites. They've never lived anywhere else. It's interesting to hear their stories and how the Jewish community has changed. And so we're learning, but I don't necessarily identify with that.
What are some of the things you're most proud of during your life?
Most proud? My marriage. That's been, you know, just rock solid and wonderful, and changes and gets better, and so that's been terrific. I think the kind of child I was to my parents, especially in their later years, after my brother died, the responsibility got to be so much more intense. And the fact that I was able to bring my mother to Dallas and take really good care of her while she was here, so I'm proud of that. And I'm proud of my kids. I mean, they're really fine young men, law-abiding citizens, and we've also been really good grandparents because there has been turmoil in their lives. Both of our sons are divorced, and especially the kids living in Dallas, we were the stability for them and the safe place to be. So.
Are there some other things that you'd like me to cover or you to cover while we're talking? Anything I've left out?
I will. The door is moving.
Don't pay any attention.
Don't pay any attention. It's just sliding open slowly. Oh my gosh. Um, well, I don't know. I mean, I guess once I can see this or listen to it, we can flesh it out a little bit more. It's just, the anecdotal stories, the fun stories, but
You are welcome to. We have plenty of time. If you want to talk about anything from your childhood or your adulthood, we've got time.
we've got time. Sort it through. I have to think. Well, I'd say that the time in my life right now, because it has changed dramatically for me, the socialization here is really quite remarkable. And I don't think I've known this many people my whole life. And some of them I give clear birth to, others we've gotten really close to. But I've become much more involved and much more outgoing. I was the little girl who my mother would send me to the grocery store with the money and the list, and I'd stand in the corner and the guy would finally say, "Little girl, can I help you?" And then I would give him the list and the money. I'm not that little girl anymore, and it's nice. A lot more confidence and willingness to kind of put myself out there. So that's been a big change.
That's great.
Yeah.
Do you have any other hobbies that you still like to do?
Well, I like to read. I like to write.
Are you
I
still
love-
doing any art?
Not so much, and I really do miss that. Yeah, that was a wonderful time in my life, and I did things that I never knew I could do, and that was very encouraging. The classes here are a little bit more loving, hands from home kind of product you wind up with, and so it's not as challenging. So I don't here and there. I
Does
just,
Larry do any sculpting?
No, because he doesn't have the
Have a torch?
he doesn't have the tools. He doesn't have the hands anymore. But he too. I mean, he'll tell you how much he likes living here, and it's been great for him. Yeah, and I learned to play mahjong since I live here, which I never did before.
And that could fill every day,
But it
every
won't.
hour of
But
the
it
day.
won't.
But that's
Yeah,
good.
But and it's another way to meet people. And what you learn quickly is you meet people through activities. It's not who you're having dinner with every night. So it's really nice.
That's great. Well, I have really enjoyed visiting with you, Linda.
Well,
Thanks so
same
much
here.
for sitting down and talking to me today.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Thanks.